Thank you, Nikki. So this is the title, Making System Dynamics Mainstream, but it's got a subtitle, which I like to refer to as Cindy Saves the Day. I hope you'll follow with me the story of how Cindy comes to save the day and how that might have some bearing on our ability to make system dynamics more mainstream in the big wide world out there. And this story starts with my friend Alan, analyst. Now Alan, there are lots of Alans out there. They work in management accounting departments, marketing analysis departments, HR departments, supply chain administration, public service companies, not-for-profit organisations. Order of magnitude, there must be hundreds of thousands of Alans out there, could be millions. There's an awful lot of them. So this particular Alan analyst, has got to do a sales and profit plan for his company's new product. And this product is a mid-value consumer technology product, and his company has done this kind of thing before, so they've been relatively successful, but he's got to come up with a forecast, a projection for this particular new product. So what does he do? Well, he supposes that what he's got to do is he's got to get his spreadsheet out. And he's not looking forward to this task, because the last time he got his spreadsheet out to do this, it took him a long time. It was intensely boring and tedious. And when he got to the end of it, it turned out he'd made some mistakes in it, which he couldn't find, until he came to present the plan to the CEO and the CFO, at which point in time he was somewhat unpopular. So Alan's not looking forward to this task. So he leans back and he says, oh, you know, I really wish I could have some help with this. There must be a better way of doing this. And sure enough, along comes someone he's never met before. Who could this be? Hello, I'm your fairy godmother, Cindy Modella, and I can grant you 3 wishes. So what would your first wish be? Well, can you help me with this plan I've got to produce? So Cindy, of course, being Cindy Modella, says, of course, but you know, a spreadsheet's no use for this. I'll kick that off the screen to start with. I'll build a model for you. This will be much more useful for what you're trying to achieve. So a little time goes by, and Cindy returns, and she says, here's your plan, Alan. And by magic, there it is. There's the sales and profit forecast, and here's all the spaghetti that we're so used to. And Alan thinks, wow, well, that's really cool, Cindy. How does it work? I wonder if I can do that. Afraid not, says Cindy. It's way too complicated for you. You need a huge brain to do this, and many years of training and experience. You can't possibly do this. You need to be a specialist like me. So Alan thinks to himself, oh, this is really cool. I wish I could do this. Ah, I remember. My fairy godmother said I had 3 wishes. So here's my second wish. I have to explain this plan to my CEO and my CFO. So Cindy, my second wish is that you tell me how to do this. I don't care what you just said about this being too difficult. I want you to tell me. Okay, well, but I warn you, system dynamics is really, really hard. It's way too hard for you. We don't usually like to bother your little brain with this, but I'll see what I can do. So let's start with how many customers you're hoping to win for this new product. Well, maybe, you know, we've done our kind of market research stuff, and it looks like there might be 10 million of these people out there who'd like this product. And with a bit of luck, we'll build that number up over 5 years. Looking back at previous products, that might be possible. And the real prize here is that they will then upgrade it. The early sales are okay, the first time sales, but the real sale volume will come from people buying new models and upgrading every couple of years. Okay, says Cindy, so you need to win these people at this rate to get this volume of repeat sales and get your sales growing over your 5-year period. Does that look something like what you're trying to do? Yeah, that's not far off, says Alan. But tell me, Alan, says Cindy, how's that going to happen? Well, marketing will get us some of the way, says Alan. Okay, but won't you run out of customers, says Cindy. You can't just keep marketing and keep on winning more people. Surely you're going to run out of customers. Alan says, oh yeah, well, we've done this before, and of course, the more of the market we capture, the less effective our marketing becomes. Why would that be, says Cindy? Well, I suppose it's just there are fewer people left to get hold of, says Alan. Oh, that sounds right, says Cindy. Why don't you have a go? Okay, says Alan, I'll have a go at this. So, Alan, why don't you add to this model that we've started the remaining customers and show how the rate at which we win these customers will likely fall off? Or like this, says Alan. So here's the remaining potential owners we've got, and oh, yeah, our win rate is slowing down, and we're not getting anywhere near the number of current owners anyway, and it all looks kind of wrong. Something's going wrong here. We're spending this money, we are growing the customer base, but we're not hitting the kinds of numbers that we're looking for. Have I done something wrong here? You know, I thought I got the hang of this. It didn't look too difficult, but oh no, I see what you mean. This system dynamic stuff really is tough, isn't it? Really hard work. Well, there isn't much growth going on. Maybe the thing we're missing is that these folk will tell their friends when these people get this great product. Okay, says Cindy, we can add that too. Let me show you how to do that. Here's how you add word of mouth. So I've got my current owners talking to the other people, and there are fewer of them as time goes by, and a few of those people will decide to buy the product. And our first-time buyers are increasing over time, and then they're falling off as we kind of run out of customers to buy the product. Oh, okay, that's great, Cindy. Now all I need to do is to work out how we make profit out of this. You can do that, can't you, Alan? And why don't you add some charts so you can test out some different assumptions? You know, what would happen if we spent more on marketing or less on marketing? What would happen if the price was higher or lower? I'm sure you can do that. Let me just hold your hand while we do this piece of it. And, oh, there's the model. Oh, thanks, Cindy. I get what we've done. This is what you've been telling me is a diffusion model. It seems a technical term, but I see what you're getting at. Good news is the CEO will get it as well. He can see what's going on here. If any of you would like to actually try this for yourself, the model itself is at that link there, sdl.re tech2c. So, problem is, says Alan, my CEO will be pretty scared by this. He hasn't seen anything like this before. What he's used to seeing is spreadsheets, and this is completely different. Well, not really, says Cindy. It's not that different. Just tell your CEO that each of these things here, each of these things in this diagram, is just a column in a spreadsheet. It's got the name at the top of the column, and going down the 60 rows, the 60 cells below the title of the column, is all the values for the 60 months. So, yeah, that's not too difficult. I think we could get that. So, what are these arrow things all about? Well, the arrows are like the cell references that you have in your spreadsheet. So, if I want to calculate repeat sales, I'm going to calculate it from the number of people who own the product and the fraction of those people who buy it. Oh, I get it, says Anna. That's not too difficult at all. In fact, says Cindy, if you really want to, you can build exactly the same model in a spreadsheet. Precisely the same model. Yeah, those numbers match exactly. This is precisely the same model. And over here we've got the profit calculations, we've got the sales calculations, we've got the marketing expenditure and reach. There's a word of mouth piece over here, and this is hidden behind there is the piece where the company is using up its potential customer base. So Alan's beginning to feel a bit more comfortable now. He's feeling this is kind of okay. And what's more, he says, Now I see what the mistake I made the last time I did this. This cell here should be that cell plus that cell. That's S32 is Q32 plus 3, P32? Yeah. Well, right, says Cindy. What we actually mean is total sales is first time sales plus repeat sales, right? Is that easier to understand? Yes, that's much easier, and I think my CEO will get this. Well, thanks to me, that's way easier and faster than using a spreadsheet and much less chance of making mistakes. I think I can do that now. Yeah, you can do this, the next plan for yourself now. But do feel free to call me if you need. So everything is fine, Alan is happy, he feels he can now build a system dynamics model. Unfortunately, not so fast, cries this new character. Who are you, says Alan. I am the wicked witch, DT, and I will make sure that neither you nor your CEO can ever understand your models. Oh no! How will you do that? I'm really worried. What on earth are you going to do? Well, I'm going to cut your annual plan up into little pieces. And each of those little pieces will mean that the numbers don't figure out. You can't work out what's going to happen by the end of the year by looking at what's happening at the beginning of the year. Because there's going to be lots of little pieces in between. So, for example, you're starting with your cash flow of 100 per year, and it goes up at 20% a year. You'd expect to end up with 600, but you don't. You end up with 608. What's your CFO going to think about that, huh? He's going to be very puzzled. Sharp-eyed of you will have spotted I ought to have checked that number as well. That's also not going to be true. But you see what DT's done? She's messed up Alan's ability to follow the numbers through. So what on earth is Alan going to do about this? Cindy, help! My third wish, will you please save me from the wicked witch? Don't worry, Alan, no problem. Remember, we built this model in monthly units. We built it in small time units. And what that means is that things don't change very much from time to time relative to the scale of everything. So if DT comes along now and cuts that up into little pieces, it won't make such a big error. In fact, the error will be smaller than the uncertainty in your data anyway. Oh, well, that's wonderful, says Alan. DT's powers don't work here, says Cindy. Oh, Cindy, you're my hero. No problem, Alan. System Dynamics is here to make your life easier and more fun, too. More fun. So, where do we get to with this story? System Dynamics is very powerful, we all know that, but its usage is limited to basically two experts. It's the people in this room and their friends, and the people they've trained. And we've struggled for 50 years to grow that number. We run courses, we publish books, we write up cases, and we're still struggling to grow that number. System Dynamics should be routine for anyone doing time-based analysis. And by that I mean probably literally the millions of people like Alan, the Alan analysts of this world, who are using spreadsheets badly to badly solve time-based problems and challenges. So why don't they get it? Why don't they get it? Well, it doesn't help that we tell them that it's hard. Every time we tell them System Dynamics is really, really hard, and look how hard it can be. Right? This is really, really hard. You know, it's a bit like medicine being hard. Yeah? Medicine's hard, isn't it? Well, some of medicine is hard. Some of it isn't hard at all. I don't know how many of you have stuck a sticking plaster on a scratch or a cut in the last 12 months, but I certainly have. I have diagnosed the problem that I'm facing. Oh dear, there's blood on the floor. How am I going to fix it? Oh, there's this thing called a sticking plaster. I'll stick the sticking plaster over my wound and I will fix it. So, you know, I've been a medical expert on a very small scale but that's what I've done. And the same is true of SD. Some SD is hard, the kinds of stuff we've been listening to for much of this conference. Many of the sessions have been about big, complex, subtle, multi-dimensional problems, very, very important problems. But there are an awful lot of sticking plasters needed out there as well. And the elements of this world can do this. That's not beyond their ability to understand. So here we are. There are many millions of challenges out there that SD can solve. But there are only hundreds of the Cindy's and Sandys. And you know, we're not going to solve this problem with a small priesthood of outstanding experts who are the only people who know how to do this. We absolutely have to get to the hundreds and thousands, if not millions, of Alan's analysis in this world. Apart from anything else, they are actually at the foothills of these mountains. They're actually in there. They're wrestling with this stuff all the time. You know, it's all very well for us to kind of parachute in from time to time and solve big, complicated problems. But these folk are struggling with small and not very difficult dynamic problems all the time. So let me give you a case where something kind of following some of this philosophy was actually done. This is a real business. It's a home improvement assurance service. It's a company that matches people who want home improvement projects done with the contractors who are going to do the work. So homeowners want improvement projects, marketing brings inquiries to the website, service staff check projects and match those up to contractors who the company pre-qualifies and checks. So we've got trusted contractors that we pair up with householders. They quote a price for the project, the service staff supervise the project, and this is the company. You can go and see their website. The company is called opum.co.uk. They were founded about 2.5 years ago, and the company's founder built a model before he started the business to check that it would work. He then went on with his CFO, who knew nothing about system dynamics when they started this, to build to extend the model. They didn't build a new model, all they had to do was extend what they already had, because they had stocks of inquiries and stocks of projects in progress, a stock of contractors, contractors doing work on projects, projects being completed driving revenue, and the website and the customer service staff driving costs to generate profit. So it wasn't too difficult to do. The key thing was, though, they shared this model openly with the investors. They actually said, you know, over to you. These are our assumptions. These are our sensitivities we've put in there. You do what you like with them. You check. You do your due diligence. But this is our model of the business that we're running. And that enabled them to raise £3 million from those investors about 18 months into the history of the business. Now, the other great thing about Alan Analyst's plan is it doesn't stop there. That model doesn't stop just at the point where you say, well, this is what the future could do, or even with here are all the sensitivities with what you could do. The next thing you can do is you can actually use this model to run the business. And where we are with Open right now is that Rod is actually turning this into a weekly operational management tool. They have weekly stand-up meetings. Every week that goes by, the model is updated with the latest information on website hit rates, conversion rates from inquiries to projects, successful project completion rates, utilization of contractors, all that kind of stuff. Their head of customer service, their head of marketing, their head of contractor operations and contractor recruitment, and their CFO. They have literally a stand-up meeting for half an hour. They look at what the model is telling them about the latest week and whether the latest week is consistent with the history of all the weeks of their plan up to now. And there's constantly new insight and information coming in. So it's being used to actually run the business with the same model. Fundamentally, the model hasn't changed. It always was a weekly model, and it continues to be a weekly model. So this is what seems to be a quite reliable process now. We build a simple model of a founder's business concept, which becomes a reality check model with all the business factors and financials shared openly with investors to raise money, and which then becomes the third stage, an increasingly detailed weekly operational model, continually updated with performance data to inform decisions across the business. So the key message here, simulating business systems and performance was difficult. You talk to people about simulating business, they all think it's difficult and complicated. That is no longer true. That is no longer true. And I'm feeling increasingly confident in saying this. It is now easier, faster, cheaper, more reliable to build a working system dynamics model of all kinds of challenges in business and other sectors than it is to build a more complicated to understand spreadsheet that can't do half of what you can do with the system dynamics model doing the same thing. You know, we really should be out to kick Excel out of these uses. That allows you to produce live working, quantified business models for the two responsibilities that the CEO has. Responsibility number one, design a system so it can perform well. That's the first thing Ron did. You know, design the system so it is capable of working well, then use the model to actually manage the system continually so it actually does perform well and meets the expectations of the owners and the founders. So I'll just leave you with that slide. The story of how to build that model is at that link there, sdl.re, Tech 2 slides. The model itself is here. You can get to the spreadsheet, which is the same as the model, Tech 2 spreadsheet. And I should say that this is a small illustration from a larger, more complex model of a consumer tech product launch, which includes competition and experience curve dynamics as well.